What's up, nerds? Welcome back. Today I'm talking about the ongoing adventure in Batman Reptilian number 5. And in this issue, we see this story get even weirder than I ever thought it would. And if you look at the cover, I wonder what it was like for the spot treater to have to highlight Killer Croc's ass. So, if you've been keeping up with this series, you know that Killer Croc somehow gave birth to an even more monstrous fucking demonic vision than him, and so now Batman has kind of finally figured like all of that out. He's here with Killer Croc, who is still hooked up to like the womb or whatever it was that was coming out of his stomach. He cut him out of it, and then the kid came back and is now kind of like has control of Killer Croc. So that's literally where we're picking up, because Batman is saying like, well, go on then, suckle it, because it's a baby, like it was just born. So apparently it wants to nurse from its mother, which I guess does make sense, but it's a very horrifying prospect is what I'm saying. And so he's like, I'm not doing that or whatever. I can't because I don't have the parts, obviously, because we've always known Killer Croc is, a guy. So he's saying like, I obviously don't have the milk to give it. And then Batman is asking him like, you sure? And he's like, of course, or yes. And he says, because the future of Gotham might depend on it. So he's like saying, I don't care about that. So he's like, all right, you amaze me. But no, you haven't got the parts, as far as I know, stands to reason. So he's saying like, how so? And he tells him, well, Batman tells him, you're incomplete. So he says, a human being infected with alien DNA as a fetus, you're half and half without all the necessary, and then like they have to like dodge because all of a sudden the kid comes in to try and like, swipe at them or something. I don't know. But it does look really cool. Like, I really do love the design on this monster. It just looks amazing and shit. So we see where all of a sudden it flies over and then it's making all these weird noises and we can just see the back of it, right? So Killer Croc is asking Batman, like, why is it doing that? Why is it kind of like doing that, like, bending over thing? And he's like, and then Batman says, interesting. I think it actually wants you to impregnate it. So, like I said, this story got even weirder than I thought, and that's within the first like 2-3 pages of the book. Anyway, so he's like, so he says it would confirm my theory that the original species is some form of hermaphrodite. He's saying, so he's like still somewhat human, so we don't really know how that'll actually like affect him as he's like getting older and shit. So he says, well, of course, Killer Croc is like, I'm definitely not going to do that. And Batman tells him, damn right you're not. The aggressor pheromone is released during pregnancy. If that thing gets airborne, it could spread all over the city. And that's the thing that kind of like caused all of like Batman's major villains to kind of like start wanting to kill each other first. And then that was because they were all kind of like sprayed with the pheromones. That was why the monster basically went back and kind of like killed so many of them. But we get this one panel where the damn monster has these like painted on lips. I mean, it worked so well because I was just reading the story and then all of a sudden I came across that, and I think they even put that in the preview of the last issue, because at the end of every story they have like the preview art for the next issue and everything. So I think I remember seeing this, but I didn't pay that much attention to it at the time, and when I was reading the story and saw it this time, it actually kind of made me start laughing. So anyway, he's looking at it, or Killer Croc is saying, like, this can't be happening, I want to wake up. So this is where, just uncharacteristically, we get a laugh from Batman, where he's like, and of course, like, Killer Croc turns around and is like, you bastard, like, I knew you were enjoying this and everything. So Batman tells him, like, after the trouble you've given me over the years, can you blame me? So that's when he's just like, certainly you can't cut the mustard. So Killer Croc is telling him, like, what do you mean? He just tells him to run and everything. And then we see this, where I didn't know what happened at first, like, if he just shined a very bright light at him. Apparently, what Batman just did was, like, throw white phosphorus at the damn thing, which would be, deadly to any of us. But, of course, not to this thing. So Killer Croc is kind of telling him, like, well, I can't run because, I had that thing attached to my stomach and you just cut it off. So I'm kind of in a bad shape. So Batman's just like, oh, for crying out loud. And we can see where he's kind of like giving him a hand and everything. So the monster telling him like, anyone ever tell you got a really horrible laugh? To which he says, the few who've heard it, certainly. Which I don't think, have I ever heard? Well, yeah, we've heard like Bruce Wayne laugh or something like that. I don't know what Batman laughing in a somewhat sarcastic slash cruel manner at one of his villains would sound like. Not that I can imagine. Anyway, so they're like the monster's getting closer and shit. Where we can see, like I said, because he threw white phosphorus at it, it's still kind of like burning and shit. So Batman's or Killer Croc tells him like, I think you got it mad. And he's like, I'm not surprised, with a face full of white phosphorus. And then he's saying like, it's going to catch up to us. Batman tries to tell him, no, it's not going to happen. Right as it like takes a swipe at them and shit, and gets part of Batman's cape. So that causes them to go falling, and then it tries to like reach for them because I guess they're in like a little like hole in the damn tunnel or whatever. So Batman's even saying like, I'm pretty sure he's just gonna like wait us out and shit. But then he also says, because while they're in there, Killer Croc screams and he's like, oh yeah, Killer Croc, the terrifying creature and shit like that, like my hero. So, and then he's saying like, yeah, it's going to wait us out. And Killer Croc's even asking him like, will it get tired? He's like, you should be so lucky. You can't put it to the teat. You can't rut with it. So why does it still want you? Some species of spiders, he kind of just like theorizes that like maybe it wants to eat you because there are species of spiders that eat their mothers and shit like that, which I actually did not know about. That's pretty damn gross. Anyway, so he's just like, oh, that sounds just peachy. And I mean, mother, is that what I am now? So he's kind of like saying, hard to say what you are until someone gets you under the microscope, but it really is a fascinating organism. Out of this world, if you'll pardon the expression. So he just says, I'm starting to wish my aunt really had drowned me in the tub or whatever. And he's asking like, oh, she tried to do that. So he says that basically it was because he used to slough off his skin every now and again. Leaving it lying around wasn't my fault. The evil, vindictive, drunk old trout. To which Batman answers, lucky for her, you hadn't come into your own yet. That really is a superb defense mechanism. A pheromone secreted during pregnancy, causing potential predators to become enraged and attack each other instead. Which, yeah, that is pretty smart. So he says, which reminds me. So he like pulls out his phone, and this is where he finally gets the messages from that one like lackey that he kind of like pressed into his service and shit. And Killer Croc asking him like, you really get signal down here? And he says, well, yeah, of course, it's it's me. So I guess that makes sense. So that's where he's reading like Volkov's text and everything, and he reads the one that says, are you using me as bait? And then he's just like, why didn't I think of that? So Killer Croc's like, all right, so you have a plan. He says, hope so. It all rather relies on Junior reacting the way he's supposed to, which we can by no means guarantee, which does kind of make sense. So he says the trouble is that it's a hybrid too, just like you are. It has human DNA. There's no way of telling what effect that'll have on its natural behavior, whatever that might be. Imagine it for a second, Croc. All alone in an alien world, struggling to follow a life cycle hopelessly compromised by two separate species' genetic makeup. It could be that I was right, that your offspring is very simply very angry. Or it could be that it's gone completely insane. And Killer Croc's like, so? So he says, so here's where we find out. Fingers crossed. So this is where he sends messages back to Volkov and basically starts giving him the instructions like, go outside, there's going to be a car for you, you're going to get in, you're going to be all right. So he directs him outside to the Batmobile. And of course Volkov at first is just kind of like, I don't really think I want to do this and everything. So he just tells him like, it's all right, you're going to be fine. Like, why would I allow you in my car unless it was like the best for you? Because he's telling him like, this thing was built to withstand a tank. So it doesn't matter what's thrown at you, you'll be all right. So it's not until he finally gets in and kind of like sits down, that's when Batman tells him like, okay, actually, sorry, I lied to you. I am using you as bait. So he's just like starts screaming or like starts yelling out like, let me out and everything. And the car is giving him instructions to put on his seatbelt, which he doesn't want to do. So it starts electrocuting the shit out of him. So that kind of like compels him into putting on the seatbelt. And at the same time, we can see where Alfred is in the cave. I guess he was like cleaning or whatever the hell. And then he hears like what's going on in the Batmobile. So he goes over to look at the screens and everything. And he's saying like, I do hope we know what we're doing and everything. So because the monster flew away, they start climbing out of the hole. Killer Croc's just asking Batman, like, are you sure he's gone? He's like, yeah, don't worry, it's fine. So he says, if you're of no use to it, I'm gambling it'll go looking for the goods somewhere else. Namely, the only other attendee at the meet yet to be sampled. So then he asks him, like, do you know, like, Volkov and everything? He's like, yeah, that stupid looking Ivan pervert. Complete waste of space. So he's like, let's hope not. I've had the Batmobile cruising outside the tunnel entrance for the last 30 minutes. I think that might have done the trick. If it's taken the bait, I might be able to set a trap. So he tells him, like, let's go and everything. And then we can see where he's still yelling from inside, like, help and everything. And then he says that Batman is the one who's the actual monster. And Alfred, sitting in the cave, is just like, well, I'm pretty sure he would have already told you that himself. So they finally come out of the, like, cave and everything, only to find there's this group of, like, bird watchers out here to see what is it? A Colbert's tunneling puffin? And he says there are a dozen breeding pairs in the immediate vicinity. They'll be coming up to feed at dawn. And then they ask, like, are you Batman? So we see where at first the monster is, like, chasing after the Batmobile and everything because Volkov is in it. And then he tells it to do, like, a U-turn, but it keeps going. It doesn't follow him. So he's like, well, shit. We're going to have to, like, reconfigure the plan and everything. And then we see where they do finally get to see the bird. So I guess that was cute. So he's telling him, like, because Killer Croc starts laughing. He's like, is there something you find amusing? He says, Mr. In Control, Mr. All the Angles, that thing's gonna tear these nerds to pieces, all thanks to your cunning plan. So Batman has been trying to tell them, like, y'all need to leave. This place is not safe. So he says, it's locked onto you again, you fool. It must be completely bewildered. If it can't catch Volkov, you're going to have to do instead. So he's just like hell I do. So he picks up one of the tourists and he's just kind of like holding it out, saying, like, please take the nerd instead of me and shit. And then he says, like, let him go. The rest of you run for your lives. And then he tells the car to reverse course, home in on me immediately. So the bird watcher is, like, looking up and is like, what in God's name? And they're like, that thing will eat us alive. He's like, no, I'll die first. So Batman, of course, already has another plan. And this, like, panel in particular just has him looking amazing. Like, this painting Liam did of Batman is fucking cool. So he's kind of looking up at the monster, or the, like, all of the bird watchers are still looking up at the monster and shit as it flies in. And then the Batmobile comes in, and, like, Alfred is even like, what on earth are you doing, as he's looking at this? So we see where he just, like, puts an oxygen tank, I guess, in his mouth. And then he literally jumps into the monster's mouth, like, down its throat. And then it's just kind of there, like, just like, what the hell, like, kind of stunned. So Killer Croc is standing there still with the bird watchers, and, like, I guess he meant it, as Alfred is yelling Bruce into the screen. So that's actually where this issue leaves off. And like I said, there was a lot in here that was a lot more disturbing than I had anticipated, expected, whatever you want to say. But yeah, that whole part, I really didn't expect him to just jump into the thing. So I'm pretty sure, of course, there's going to be a plan. Either he's going to do that thing of, like, cutting his way out of the stomach or something, or, like, maybe he'll make it throw him up or something. I honestly don't know. But yeah, we're going to see. I kind of, like I said, I don't know where this is going to go, because this issue got more weird than I expected. Like, that whole thing with it wanting Killer Croc to mount it, like, not only did I not see that coming, I was just like, my God, are they really going to go there? And thank God they really didn't. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really have much more to say about this. I think all of the insanity was just kind of, like, wrapped up in it. And since it's keeping me going, as I've mentioned in pretty much every one of these videos, I'm not the biggest fan of Ennis's, but I mean, yeah, it has me drawn in, and for reasons I never expected. So I think that's going to do it for my review on this one. So if you enjoyed the video, then definitely make sure to like the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. Make sure that you are staying informed as to when I'm putting out these reviews. But if you're done here, guys, then go and read a book. Definitely this one. And if not, then I'll see you on my next video.